Hi everybody, it's Claire back with another art journal video, and in this one I am playing with the fabulous face masks from Scrap FX. Now, a lot of you will know that Scrap FX have gone into retirement. I do still have a few of these left on my website, that's artjournallove.com, and I do ship abroad as well, so obviously the postage will be a little bit more, but these, I would say, are a great investment. They're not massively expensive, but they are so versatile and very, very expressive as well. So I'm going to be creating a set of 3 pages, a little bit unusual in that they're cut out kind of around the shapes of the faces. And I really had no idea when I started out this page how exactly it was going to work. But it kind of morphed into being while I was working on it. So I'm starting off on my first page using these warm colours. So I've got, that does look like Sedona, I think it might be, and tangerine and lemon. And you can see that I'm not drying those colours in between, so they're kind of blending quite nicely. And then I'm using one of the face masks, and I'm going to start with black over the top of that. So hold on to your horses if you don't always get the collywobbles when I get the black out, but here we go, going in with black. And I'm using a blending tool. This is a Ranger ink blending tool, and I'm using that kind of pouncing motion because I want quite an opaque layer of paint coming through the mask. But be careful when you're using a blending tool or a brush or anything through a stencil or mask, because if you've got too much on, of course, it will bleed underneath and spoil those edges of your image. So you're better to go in with less to start off with, and just go back in again if you need to. So then I've dried the page, and I'm using then my craft knife with my little cutting mat underneath. I've just put a new blade in to my craft knife. Thank you for the person, I can't remember who it was, who sent me a safe way to change the blade on the craft knife, because boy do I scare myself. Right, so you can see I have literally just cut out the tiniest cutout and left the tiniest piece on that first page. So then I'm going on to the next page using lemon and lime, and I think I also use some turquoise, yes, on this page too. So of course I'm using rainbow colours, but I'm using them in kind of groups of 3. And here I'm going to put another mask on this page, and I'm positioning it so that when the pages are closed they will still layer up and you'll be able to see the faces together. This was about the point where I started thinking, yeah, this is going to work in principle, but I'm not entirely sure what these cut out pages, what shape they're going to be. So I then kind of realised that I needed to take the black all the way into the spine just to make it touch, so that the face was going to be connected. So then I'm cutting out, and you can see I'm laying that first face down as well, and kind of cutting around that one too. You can see I'm kind of thinking about this as I'm going along, like how is this going to work? So cutting around that one so that when the pages lay together there aren't bits masking over the page that's going to go behind. And that's also left me with some space to the left of the second face that I've just masked. And so then I decided I was going to cut that out as well. This is what thinking on your feet looks like. Okay, so now I have 2 very odd shaped pages, but they do kind of lay next to each other quite nicely. And sometimes it really is just fun to have a play with a page like this, where you've got a bit of an idea, but you don't actually know where it's going to take you. So that's turquoise, this is magenta, these are Dina Wakley media paints, heavy body acrylic paints. And I think I also use blackberry on this page too. Now normally I would have used a bit of orchid, but I think when I did this page I'd actually run out of orchid. But the blackberry works quite nicely. It is quite a bold colour, it's very dark compared to the other ones, but as you know, if you follow me regularly, I do love pinks and purples and blues, so I don't really have a problem with the fact that that blackberry is quite strong. And here, going back in with the black again. So I've positioned this third face so that when it lays behind the other two faces, you can still see it. And then this page was the trickiest, I guess, to kind of work out where I was going to be cutting away pieces and what I was going to leave. And I think you just have to kind of, yeah, you can see if you look round the eye on that face, I've used too much paint on my blending tool and it's just kind of smudged those edges a little bit. So look, because it's wet, I can rub it away, give it a quick dry and go back in again. I left that bit in so that you can see, as long as your paint's wet, you can fix things like that happen. There we go. Easy as that. As long as your paint is wet and the background is dry, then that's an easy fix, really. So now I've done that, I'm going to be deciding how much to cut out of this third page. So what I'm going to cut away here are the pieces that you can see that are kind of showing behind the faces that are already there. So cutting these pieces out. Now, actually, it would have worked with those bits being left in place. I think it would have worked quite well. Wouldn't have mattered. And that back page would have been a great journaling space. So it wouldn't necessarily, it wasn't essential to cut all these pieces away, but I kind of wanted to do something that was very different and left me with pages that are quite quirky in their shape. And just sometimes it is really fun to experiment with the space that you've got in these little journals. So now I'm using the Signo Uniball in white and I'm just adding some of the whites of the eyes in. You can see just kind of popping those, bringing those eyes alive really. And then once I'd done that, I realised that I'd got the back of the faces too. So I popped the masks on and did some stenciling through them. And I also added a little bit of shadow down one side too. So now I've fixed the problem of what's on the reverse of the masks. And obviously on the third page, I've got 3 spaces for faces to go. So I've added those in. Here I'm just using some Tim Holtz in picked raspberry and just adding some little hearts onto the faces too. So the fronts of these pages are bright and colourful and the backs are monochromatic, they're just black and white. And then I decided in some of the spaces that were left around with the pages, as they got bigger, obviously there were more gaps between where the face was and the spine of the book. So I'm just going in and adding a little bit of stenciling just to break up those spaces, just while I was kind of pondering what I was going to do next. This is a stamp from Natalie May Scrapbooking, but I mean there are so many text stamps out there. So I've just grabbed a piece of craft cardstock and I'm just stamping that onto there as a bit of a background. This is the big words stencil from Scrap FX. And I am stenciling that onto the craft cardstock. And then that's going to be cut out and added onto the pages. So here you can see that I've cut those words out and I'm just stapling them in place and they're kind of helping to frame where those faces are. I mean, I literally had no idea that this page was going to work out like this. I knew that I wanted some words on there, and I wanted to use that big word stencil from Scrap FX, and then it was just a case of trying to fit everything together so that it would work. And this really is kind of, you're getting to see the process of how I'm kind of working out where all of these things are going to fit together and how my page is going to work. And I just love the fact that these pages are really, really different in their shape, that they've got all these different elements to them as well. So once I'd finished faffing with those, using the stapler to fasten them in place, I am using the Signo Uniball and apparently doing a lot of twiddling of my pen. This is something that I do, which I never realised I did. I've only realised since I started editing my videos for YouTube. And I'm just outlining those words just to help pop those out from the background. And then a really nice way just to finish things off like this, so the reverse of those words that I've added are a bit blank. So I'm just going in with the text stamp that I've already used and adding some text stamping onto those, and it just takes away that plainness. And then I decided I was just going to add a bit to the faces too. And you can see it works quite nicely because it's still working with the monochromatic theme of those faces, but it just helps them to feel a bit more part of what's going on. So then I'm just fixing a bit better some of those last bits in, adding some hearts. I've also added some text, some words and things onto there, and that is this finished. So here's a little flip through of the finished pages, and you can see how they kind of sit together and the places where I've added more text using my handwriting. There were lots of little spaces and opportunities for journaling on these pages. It's lots of fun to create unusual custom cutout pages in your journal, and using these face masks from Scrap FX they were perfect for this. So thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.